Discovering Asian dramas back in 2018 was an enlightening moment for me, and I've never looked back. I enjoy talking about them just as much as watching them, so much so that I decided to create a podcast with a heavier focus on Chinese dramas, but passing through Korean, Japanese, Thai, and Filipino dramas. Welcome to the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast, your corner for drama talking. For more tea and soju content, consider joining Patreon, where I release extra reviews and polls. Everything is linked in the episode description. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and in today's episode, we are diving into a genre which I've mentioned multiple times. It's one of my all-time favorites, so it's very near to my heart, and that is the Chinese genre, Xianxia. Now, Xianxia is basically where everything started for me. My very first drama back in 2018. I mean, in terms of Asian dramas, my very first Asian drama was Ashes of Love, which is a pretty big, well-known Xianxia drama. So I feel like this genre, no matter what kind of happens with it, will always stay pretty, special to me, just because it's the genre and, that started it all in terms of me watching Asian dramas. So I've been talking about it for a while, and I've been saying I will do an episode on it, and I'm finally sitting down and going through it. So the episode today, the main structure for it will be, so basically in the first half of the episode, I'm just going to go through some terminology. Is that the word? Yeah, that is. So there we go. That's a great start, isn't it? So basically just some, common words, and try to explain what Xianxia actually is, and, just go through a little bit of the background of it, so that we can get like a little bit more of understanding of it. Because I know what it is in terms of what shall I say? In terms of Western words, so to speak. But it was really, really good to go in and do a little bit more research for this episode, because I've kind of learned the terms behind it. And I feel like that's kind of added to my understanding of the genre and to my, love for it in general. And then the later half of the episode, I'm just going to run through some of my favorites. There's not a lot of them, mainly because there's a couple that I don't want to talk about yet. I will come to those later on. But apart from that, that's it. That will be the kind of structure for the episode. So like I said, the first part will be quite structured in general. There's a lot of notes that I've kind of taken, and I'll be reading from those, simply because I don't want to mess up any of, the words that I have to say or the explanation for it. So yeah, and then the second half will be back to normal schedule in terms of me just basically, loving on dramas. So yeah, if you find that it's a little bit different, hopefully it'll still work for you, but I just kind of wanted to do the genre and the explanation for it, justice. So I try to find the best words, and I couldn't really explain it in my own words, so I kind of went and looked, and I'm using, other people's words. I have credit to everything, so I will explain that in a minute. So yeah, I think that's everything for this little introduction. Just a little reminder, if you do enjoy the podcast, Patreon is available there. I post movie reviews and mini drama reviews up on there. So if you'd like to support it, please go and check it out. If not, just go and check out the socials. I post quite a few things on Instagram mainly. I used to be on Twitter a lot more, but Twitter seems to be imploding still, and I'm not sure if it's going to be there or not. So I tend to be a little bit more active on Instagram, come and chat to me. I kid you not, one of the best things that I just love when people just, take the plunge and come and chat to me, and they'll be like, oh, I'm really enjoying this drama, or, I heard an episode from you and I checked out a drama that you mentioned and I liked it or I didn't like it, just whatever. I just love chatting dramas. So whenever somebody drops me a message, I always feel like it brightens my day. So yeah, that's all the, little things out of the way. I do just want to put a little disclaimer on this episode. I have tried to research as best as I could to use the right terminology, and all the sites that I have used and taken the information from, everything is going to be linked in the episode notes, and that that PDF paper of, document of sorts will be linked in the episode description for this episode. So wherever you're listening, whether it be Spotify or, Apple or whichever, place you use to listen, there will be a link that will lead you to the PDF for this episode, and that will have all the links for the, where I've taken the descriptions for the terminology and everything. Everything is linked in that, because I definitely want to give credit to, the lovely writers that did a wonderful job explaining the terminology. So everything for that is linked in the episode notes. And also, like I said, I am not an expert. I'm just an avid watcher at best. So if you know that there is something that I have said throughout the episode in terms of the terminology that I've used or anything like that, and you know that to be incorrect, please let me know, and I will do my darn best to kind of go in and add a little note to the episode or whatever it may be to correct. But like I said, I have tried to sort of do the little research that I could. So yeah, hopefully everything will be, explained as best as I can and everything is correct. But I just wanted to put that disclaimer in there because I don't want something to be incorrect and then people to be, upset about it or wherever it may be. Like I said, I have tried to, do the research for it. But we can always get something wrong. I mean, we're only human and mistakes do happen. So yeah, that is everything. Again, the last little disclaimer is from pronunciation. I have tried to look it up and sort of Google, is that the right word? Yeah, that is. I've tried to Google sound the words out. So I'll do my best to sort of, pronounce, to try and not butcher too much of the pronunciation. But that's it. That's the intro completely out of the way. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And with that, let's get into it. So basically, the way that I've always kind of explained Xianxia in general, as, an Westerner, so to speak, is that it would be something akin to epic fantasy, which includes, gods and magic and multiple lives and, just epic fantasy. That's what I would kind of equate it to. But I think that Xianxia is not something that we will ever see in the West because it is so uniquely Chinese. I mean, it is, the foundations of Xianxia are very much in, Chinese mythology. So I think it is impossible to kind of compare it to anything in the West or anything that we would be familiar with in the West. But in what I would say is similar, that we could call it in a sense and kind of be familiar with the words that are being used, is epic fantasy. And, that is, that's the very, what should I call it? The very, very, very probably not the very, very correct term for it. But if I were to try to explain it, very, 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 very simply, that's what I would call it. But that's not what I would want to explain it as fully. So that's why I've kind of gone in and, kind of grabbed a description from a site, and this is the site that is called Wuxia Society website. And I have always, like, I've used their explanations. They do, like, their, you know, Wuxia Society. They've kind of, like, done an article that kind of compares Wuxia to Xianxia, and they even go into, I think it's called Xuanhuan, which is another fairly, what I've learned, apparently, it's a fairly recent term, so it's not a term that has been used for a very long time, but it's another genre within, you know, the fantasy realm, so to speak. But this is where I've gotten the information from. I think they've explained it really, really well. Like I said, the article that I used and that I'm quoting will be linked in the episode notes, so please feel free to go and check that out. That resource is available there. I do want to give credit to them because this is their work, not, you know, my words. So basically they explained it as Xianxia. Xian means an immortal or celestial being. Xianxia means a I can never quite say that word. Chivalrous, immortal, or celestial being. It is a subgenre of wuxia. I found that myself quite interesting because I've always seen Xianxia and wuxia as like two very separate things. But now digging a little bit more into it, it seems that, like, at least from the Wuxia Society website's, point of view, that it is, so Xianxia is kind of like a subgenre of wuxia. Now, if you're more diverse, or even if you speak Mandarin, or, you know, please let me know if you would agree with this. I'm going to have to check with Sarah from, you know, we've had Sarah on as a guest a couple of episodes ago, and I'm going to have to go and check out with her and see what she thinks and if this is something that she would also agree with. But yeah, I was quite intrigued to find that out because I've always thought of it as two separate things, but it seems more like it isn't. Wuxia seems to be like the umbrella term, and then Xianxia seems to be like a subgenre of wuxia. And I could kind of see, because like there's like certain fighting scenes within Xianxia that would perhaps come from, Xianxia itself. And there's something that, not from Xianxia, from wuxia, I meant from wuxia. And there's like one famously drama would be something like The Untamed, which, you know, a lot of it is more wuxia based, but there is obviously the whole Wei Wuxian storyline, and that always seems to be a little bit more on the Xianxia side. So I wonder if it's more like, you know, a interwoven, they're kind of genres that are kind of like interwoven. So this would make sense. So it goes on to explain, Xianxia differs from traditional wuxia, where are usually no immortals or celestial beings. Celestial beings in Chinese culture can also be fairies, demons, and spirits. This subgenre is a fusion of wuxia and Chinese mythology. Given that Chinese mythology bear many elements of Taoism, it is common to see them in Xianxia stories as well. It is also not a far-fetched to consider classical Chinese mythology as Xianxia. They just have been around and passed down generations long enough to attain a mythological status. So I found that explanation, you know, pretty well, written to understand. And, you know, it is very much what I've always said in terms of like Xianxia is like all about the gods and, you know, the celestial beings and achieving that immortality. I think that's all very much under the Xianxia umbrella, so to speak. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on, and one of them was, you know, there's one term that they use that is Taoism, and I used a good old Wikipedia for this. So hopefully I have checked and cross-referenced with a couple of other websites, and they seem to sort of agree. So I kind of went with the Wikipedia explanation, and basically it is a little bit long-winded, but I thought it still explained it pretty well. So Taoism, or Taoism, refers to a set of Chinese traditions and religions which emphasize living in harmony with the Tao. The Tao is generally defined as the source of everything and the ultimate principle underlying reality. The Tao Te Ching and the Zhuangzi are widely considered key Taoist texts. Taoism includes various self-cultivation methods, including meditation, internal alchemy, and various rituals. Common aims include becoming one with natural flow of the Tao, longevity, becoming a sage, and even an immortal. Taoist ethics vary depending on the particular school, but they generally tend to emphasize virtues like non-action, naturalness, or spontaneity, simplicity, and the three treasures: compassion and humility, and frugality. So on the episode notes for this, I do have like all the Chinese spellings. By Chinese, I think it is Mandarin. I think they've written it in Mandarin. All the Mandarin spellings for the words used in this text. And I thought it was quite interesting because I have heard a lot of the time, that Xianxia is based or, comes from Taoism, but I've never actually taken the time to look and research what Taoism actually is. And I've always said that Xianxia tends to be constructed really, really well. And it makes sense because if it's built on, not rules necessarily, but texts and like mythology that's already there, it would make sense that the world building kind of comes together. So I really, I quite enjoyed. I actually had a lot of fun doing like the research for this episode because I learned a lot, and I kind of love that, going on a little off tangent here, but I kind of love that, a lot of the time I would just used to watch dramas and be like, oh yeah, I like that, it was good. Or no, I didn't like that, I want to go to the next drama or whatever. But now that like I have the podcast, I tend to look a little bit deeper and kind of like think, what's behind that, or what does that word mean, or where does that come from, and I kind of try and search out. So I feel like having the podcast has kind of like enlightened my curiosity for wanting to know more about the culture that I'm consuming these dramas from. And I know it's probably something that I should have done a little bit earlier, but at that point I just wasn't, that's not where I was at that point of me just watching dramas. So I found this episode specifically really interesting to go into because, like I said, it is a genre that I really, really enjoy. And I knew about it on the very, very surface. Like haven't really dived into it in terms of what it is and where it comes from. So I really, really liked going into this episode and kind of like doing the research and, learning about Taoism and, about cultivation, because I kind of can see what cultivation is on screen, but you never quite know that that's so rooted in, texts and ancient, ways that have been practiced for eons of years. So I really, really did enjoy that. So speaking of cultivation, that kind of segues really nicely into the next word that I kind of like wanted to go into, and that is cultivation. So for me, cultivation, simply put, is the act of using training methods such as study, meditation, and actual practice with skills to reach the next level of power. Now, that's like the explanation that I went in with, like me thinking of what it was, and I've kind of like wanted to put those down because I feel like what you think something is, and then once you look into it, it may be that on the very surface level it may be very similar to what you were thinking, but there's a lot more behind it. So I wanted to put that down of like what I thought it was before. And so basically, this also comes from Wikipedia. Again, everything is linked in the episode notes, and I've got all the texts and everything also in there. So if you do want to look more into it, you are more than welcome to use that as a resource. So it says, The Xianxia genre also includes the popular subgenre known as cultivation or training. In the 21st century, this subgenre became popular with the advent of online publishing, with sites such as Qidian.com, Zonghang.com, and 17k.com giving a platform for authors to reach wide audiences with high-volume sterilized content. It was popularized outside of China primarily by fan translations in the early 2000s. Novels such as Stellar Transformations, Coiling Dragon, Martial God Azora, and I Shall Seal the Heavens led to a boom in such fan translations. This genre is also a staple of Chinese television shows, films, manhua, donghua, and games. In these stories, protagonists are usually cultivators or practitioners who seek to become immortal beings called Xian. Along the way, they attain eternal life, supernatural powers, and incredible levels of strength. The fictional theme of cultivation or immortal arts practice in Xianxia is heavily based on the real-life meditation practice of Qigong. So, yeah, that was really interesting for me because that was like, I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know that the cultivation itself was like seen as like something that could be like a subgenre within Xianxia. And now looking at it, it does make sense from what they've explained. I also really liked, learning about the, how it became more popular within China and then abroad. Also, just if you guys don't know, you might know, but there was 2 words mentioned in there. So manhua, that's what comic books are called in China, and donghua are the animation. So I don't really want to use the word because it's more of a Japanese word, but it's kind of like the anime that is done in China. That is Chinese anime, I would say. But the correct word and term for it would be donghua. There is actually, funnily enough, a donghua on iQIYI for Love Between Fairy and Devil. I do want to watch it, but it was still on air last time I checked, and I want to kind of like just binge it. There is, for example, The Untamed has a very, very famous donghua, and it also has a manhua. It has a bunch of, other things behind it. So it's always really interesting to see the whole everything behind the genre. So not the genre, but you may start off with a book, and then that may lead to a show, which may lead to, or you may have a donghua first and then a manhua, or whichever it may be. It's just kind of like, it's kind of fun to see all the aspects within, that drama's world or that story's world. So yeah, I think that is everything that I've kind of collected, and by everything I mean I could literally be here for hours just talking about all, everything behind it, but I kind of just like skimmed the surface, and hopefully from those texts that I've kind of pulled, you can kind of have a better understanding of what Xianxia and what it entails, and what, how deeply rooted it is in Chinese culture. And I love that. I really, really do, because like I said, I feel like the world building within Xianxia is really good. It has been, suffering a little bit in recent times, more because it kind of has become a little bit of the samey. That is changing, and I'm kind of happy for that. But we will get to that a little bit, later on in the episode. But I hope that you've gotten a better idea. Like I said, I have only pulled the very surface descriptions from these sites, so I have linked everything in the episode notes. So please, if you want, go and check the episode notes out, and you can go and check out those links and read everything fully for yourself. If you want to deep dive a little bit more into it, I definitely think it's worth your time to do so, because it is so complex and it's a lot of fun as well. So now hopefully you guys kind of like have a better understanding of the genre in itself. like I said, go check out the articles. They're pretty good. But we're going to move on to the second part of the episode, and that is where I get to basically just tell you about some of my favorites within the genre. Now, there is a little aside. There is 2 dramas that kind of fall under the Xianxia genre. One of them definitely, the second one possibly. But I'm not going to mention them simply because I have plans for them to do something special with them a little bit later on. And that is the recently finished drama, The Starry Love. Heads up, I absolutely loved this drama, but there is something special that I've got planned for that episode, which will probably come your way in April at some point. So yeah, that won't get mentioned here, but that is definitely part of my favorite Xianxias. But like I said, not mentioned in this episode because it'll get a special mentioned in an upcoming episode. And the second one would be the drama The Untamed. I've already briefly touched on it. I'm actually rewatching that drama, but I'm not going to mention or talk about it in this episode because, again, there's something I'm doing with that one later on in the year and I don't necessarily want to touch on it. But both of those definitely are some of my favorites. So if you haven't watched them, go check them out. There will be things coming up for them, let's put it that way. But there is no way I could do a Xianxia episode and not touch on this drama. I've already mentioned it. It's my first Asian drama ever, and that is the 2018 drama Ashes of Love. It was directed by Chu Yu-boon and Chang Fang, and actually the Chu Yu-boon director, he also directed The Starry Love, and I could totally tell because there's quite a few things that are similar. But yeah, there's 2 directors for Ashes of Love. The screenwriters were Zhang Yuan Ang and Bai Yitong and Ma Jia. The main roles were Yang Zi as Jin Mi, Deng Lan as Xu Fang, Lu Yunqi as Run Yu, Wang Yifei as Su He, and Chen Yuqi as Liu Ying and Zhu Tingwei as Mu Zi. Those are the main cast for this drama. It is actually based on a web novel. The name for the web novel is Heavy Sweetness Ash Like Frost, and it was written by Dian Xian. It is 63 episodes of about 40 minutes each, and it's currently available on Netflix, Viki, WeTV, and Kukan YouTube channel. Those may or may not be, region restricted in some places. I think on Netflix it may be available widely. It is at least in the UK. So yeah, that is, the details for Ashes of Love. I loved you have no idea how much I loved this drama. Like I said, I watched it in 3 days and I got up. I literally went to bed at like 7 in the morning because I was binging it that hard. It's been a while since I've binged a drama since that. I used to read books in that. A Saturday evening, I would blink my eyes and it would be Sunday morning and I had just literally read through a book. I used to do that quite a lot when I was younger. Apparently, age doesn't forgive you and you need sleep more as you age. But back in 2018, I was on I had the week off because it was Christmas break. So I remember it vividly because, again, if I hadn't been off work, I would have not been able to, binge it in the way that I did. And I was off work and I literally stayed up until 7 in the morning. And I was like, maybe I need to get a couple of hours, maybe I need to get some shut-eye. And literally went to bed 7 in the morning, got up at 10 in the morning. So I slept for 3 hours and went right back to watching this again. And I was like, and then literally finished it because you hit. And I get it. One of the things that a lot of people will mention about Xianxia dramas is how freaking long they are, but they just work. They just work. And This one, for me, there was no real lull in it at all. It's one of the very few, actually, that I would say there's not a lull in the drama as a whole of that length. And I just loved it. Now, I have mentioned this before. This was my very first drama. Like, everything was new. Everything was shiny. And now I have a lot of fond, feelings for it because it was my first drama. And like I said, a whole new world opened up to me. Now, if I were to watch it now in 2023 with the eyes of like having watched, I don't know how many dramas I've watched. I probably don't want to know because I'll scare myself with it. But with the eyes of having watched way, a lot of Chinese dramas, Korean dramas, Japanese dramas, whatever it may be, would I like it as much? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Do I still sometimes there'll be scenes from this drama that'll pop up on my YouTube and I will watch them and I still absolutely love those scenes, but those are very specific scenes and I can tell you exactly what happens to this day. I still have a very vivid memory of the drama as a whole, and I feel like that alone, it has kind of like staying power, or, it was impactful. Again, I don't know how much of that was due to it being my first Asian drama in general. But like I said, I just loved it. I loved Jinmi's character, so Yang Zi, the actress. I just absolutely loved it. She starts off as this very, very childish, very innocent girl. There is a reason for that. So basically the story is she doesn't know, she can't feel. I might actually pull up my drama list descriptions for these because I don't want to give too much away and I don't want to accidentally give any spoilers. So I feel like probably reading the MDL description, we might be a bit safer. So the MDL description for this is: Zifan, the flower deity, dies after giving birth to a daughter, Jinmi. Before her death, Zifan foresaw that Jinmi would encounter a fatal love trial and fed her daughter an unfeeling pill to prevent her from developing any romantic feelings. Zifan also instructed the leaders of the flower realm to keep Jinmi's identity a secret and had her kept locked in a water boundary within the flower realm. Several thousand years later, Jinmi has grown up into an innocent and naive sprite who longs to see the world outside of the flower realm. When Shufang, the fire deity and second son of the heavenly emperor, accidentally lands in the flower realm after being attacked during his phoenix rebirth process, Jinmi nurses Shufang back to health and demands that he takes her along with him when he leaves the flower realm. This is where Jinmi's adventure and love trial begins, as she explores the realms and meets various immortals and demons. Now, I will tell you this, right? So, basically, he kind of Shufang he's a phoenix, so I don't know, I can't remember, and it isn't said on in the MDL description, but every X amount of years, he has to go into this mode and he is reborn again, because that's what phoenixes do, right? So he is reborn again, but basically something goes wrong and he gets shot out of the sky and he lands in Jinmi's kind of a backyard, and she's been very, very sheltered, and she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know that her mother is the flower deity. She just thinks she's a little pea sprout. That's what she thinks she is. So it leads to very, very funny scenes because he kind of is injured and he's this charcoal kind of blackened bird, and there's a couple of scenes right at the beginning where she just thinks she's gonna eat him because he's a bird and he's kind of fallen, and he kind of starts moving and then he becomes this human, and it's hilarious. See, I still remember these scenes vividly 5 years later. So yeah, it's definitely got a lasting impact. It is still to this day one of the most what shall I call it? One of the most romantic epic love stories I have ever watched. And the ending scenes, like from episode about 45 to 63, I could not put this drama down because everything just gets ramped up so much. And there is one specific character who is a villain in this drama. And to this day, I still cannot see this actress as anything else but, you know, the evil character that she played in this drama. That's how much I hated her. Like, I physically hated her. And I was like, this drama is bringing a whole bunch of, you know, feelings in me. And actually, funnily enough, after I finished it, I stayed with it for a good few months. I didn't actually move on to any other show. I went back and I rewatched episodes, and I went and watched, you know, went and dived into YouTube in terms of like watching the behind the scenes, watching, you know, clips of certain scenes again. There is one specific scene in episode 61, which I will not say what it is, but if you've watched it, you know what scene I mean. And it is like the combination of all of these episodes of angst into this one scene, and I freaking loved it. I was like cheering, and you know, mind you, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I bet my partner was not happy that I was like binging this drama while he still had to go to work and I had the week off. So, you know, whatever. But yeah, I just loved this drama so much. Again, I am actually going to do a series this year where I go back and I don't rewatch, but I really have been curious, and, you know, I want to go back and sort of rewatch some of my favorite dramas, but I'm also like a little bit fearful. And please tell me if this is, you know, if you have this feeling as well, because I know not everybody is a rewatcher. And one of the reasons that I don't necessarily like rewatching is that I already know what's coming, right? You know the story. But one of the other things is, especially for dramas that are like so near and dear to me, like Ashes of Love is, like, you know, Fairy and Devil is, like, you know, Go Ahead, those dramas that are like have really, really stuck with me, I'm also a little bit scared that I'm gonna go in a second time with like a fresh pair of eyes, especially for something like Ashes of Love that I watched, you know, 5 years ago, and going back in now with having watched a bunch of other stuff. Will I still love it as much? Will it hold up? And I guess, like, for some people, they kind of like knowing that. They kind of like going in and feeling, oh yeah, maybe it does still stand up, or no, it doesn't, you know, stand the test of time. But I get a little bit scared that one of my favorites is no longer going to be one of my favorites because I've gone back and rewatched it and it doesn't quite hit as much as it did the first time around. Now, is that just a me thing? Does anybody out there listening also have this feeling or get this feeling where, you know, you don't necessarily want to go and rewatch? I know a lot of people love rewatching and going back to that like safe place because you kind of like know what's going to happen, so you can feel, you know, that you're enjoying the watch a lot more. You don't have to predict, is this going to be a happy ending? Is it, you know, what kind of ending are we going to get? Is the story going to be good? Because you kind of already know that, like, you've watched it. But for me, it's also like a little bit, you know, worrying, as like, am I gonna love this drama just as much as I did, you know, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago? So yeah, because I feel like we're always ever changing in terms of what we like watching, and, you know, what we liked watching even a month ago might not be what we like watching right now. So yeah, I always find it interesting, but I do actually want to do a series where that's coming up later, you know, later on in the year. Little spoiler for future episodes, but I do actually have a series planned where I am gonna go and rewatch some of my favorites and like call it, you know, a throwback, so to speak, to see if they stand the test of time, if they are still my favorites, and what have I spotted the second time around. I'm a little bit scared about doing this, but I want to do it because I feel like there's so much that I would have probably missed the first time around, and maybe Ashes of Love should be one that I do go back, but go back in like, you know, Christmas when I have that week off work and I don't necessarily do a lot during that time. So it would be interesting to see if I binge it just as quickly as I did the first time around. So yeah, that's Ashes of Love. There is no way I could do an episode on Xianxia and not mention that one. It is a pretty big drama. A lot of people know of it. You know, it kind of through the main actors Yang Zi and Zhang Lan into a lot of, you know, more epic fame, let's put it that way. Although Zhang Lan had a little bit of he didn't pay his taxes, people. He didn't pay his taxes, so he's kind of like been shoved out of the spotlight. I'm really sad. Not sad that he kind of got punished for not paying his taxes. I'm a little bit sad because there was one drama I was really, really looking forward to, which is called Night Wanderer. It looked so good. All the promo, everything. And now, will we ever see it again? I don't know. It's one of those things because he was in it and, you know, he's kind of like been cancelled because of tax evasion. So we don't know if we're going to see that drama or not. But it is what it is. Yang Zi is doing pretty well. She's gone on to do other dramas that I've really enjoyed. So yeah, that's Ashes of Love. Now, the next drama, which is still probably my all-time favorite Xianxia, and I would put it on par with Ashes of Love. Now, the only reason it's probably above Ashes of Love in terms of quality, is it though? Maybe it's just more recent and it has a little bit more, you know, better technology behind it, let's put it that way. But that would be Love Between Fairy and Devil. Now, I'm not going to go through any of like, you know now that I love this drama. I have a full hour-and-a-half review on it. It's like maybe second or third episode for the podcast. So if you guys haven't gone and listened to that one, go back and listen. There's so much in that episode, but I feel like I still need to mention it because it is and probably will be one of my favorites for a really long time. It's had such a big impact in terms of bringing more people into like watching Chinese dramas. So I feel like it'll be a drama to remember in terms of the fantasy, you know, in terms of Xianxia. So yeah, it has a very, very special place for me. At that point when I watched Love Between Fairy and Devil, I hadn't watched a Xianxia that I had really, really absolutely loved and immersed myself in so much for a really long time. So when Love Between Fairy and Devil came along and then everybody started loving it and then there was just like this big train. And even now, like I feel like there's this whole new wave of people coming in and watching Love Between Fairy and Devil and absolutely loving it and kind of like following that into Chinese drama land. So I feel like it is a very special drama in general. I absolutely love it. Love it. Again, I will not go into it because I feel like I could probably be here for another 2 hours just talking about it. So yeah, that's the drama Love Between Fairy and Devil. If you want to hear my full thoughts on it, if you haven't already, go check out my full review. I think, do a non-spoiler section and I do a, you know, spoiler section afterwards. Again, that was one of my earlier episodes. I was still like trying to figure out, I'm still trying to figure everything out now. You know, this is a kind of like learn as you go project, I think the podcast is. So, but that, you know, it's still one of my earlier episodes. So I may not be as like fluent in terms of, you know, how I speak and everything. But yeah, it's still one of my favorite episodes. And I feel like it's my second most ever listened to episode from the podcast, so you guys can make that what you will. But moving on, and I feel like this drama kind of like slits in quite nicely after Love Between Fairy and Devil, and that is the 2019 drama The Legends. Now, directors for this is Steve Chang and He Zhanhua. And the screenwriters for this are Juliu Feixing, who is a co-screenwriter with Yang Ziqian. Now, The Legends is based on a book of the same name by Juliu Feixing. The why I said it's a nice tie-in is because Juliu Feixing also wrote the original novel for Love Between Fairy and Devil. So it's written by the original source material for the dramas are written by the same author, if that makes sense. This is the cast for it is Bai Lu as Lu Zhao Yao, Shu Kai as Mu Qing, Dai Shu as Jiang Wu, and Xiao Yan as Qin Ziyan. This is 56 episodes of about 45 minutes each, and it's available on iQIYI, Viki, and the Fresh Drama YouTube channel. Now, you will see a pattern. Older, and by older I mean like maybe 5 years ago, or even just as recent as two years ago, Xianxia dramas tend to be very long. The pattern is slightly changing. If you look at Love Between Fairy and Devil, that was 36 episodes. If you look at the very recently finished The Starry Love, that was 40 episodes. So it is tending to, be shorter. Now, there is a good thing and a bad thing. The story doesn't drag as much in these newer, shorter Xianxias. What I will say is the longer Xianxias tend to land the ending so much better for me. The newer ones tend to be the endings tend to be a little bit more rushed. So that's something, that I felt, I keep saying older and newer, but I just mean like the shorter Xianxias that we've been getting. I still love Between Fairy and Devil and The Starry Love, but I could have done with a couple more episodes from each. But that's something that I talk about in the review, and that I will probably very much talk about when I do the Starry Love episode. This one, again, I will go in and I will read the my drama list description, just because I feel like, again, I'm probably safer. Guys, I don't mind spoilers at all, so I try really hard not to spoil anything, because I feel like it could mean that that person may not want to watch a drama, so I do try to be conscious of it. But I will read the MDL description for it, which is as follows. While attempting to take her predecessor's Wanzhou sword, Lu Zhao Yao is ambushed by the 10 immortal sects and dies. She mistakenly believes Li Chanlan, who is her best ally, is related to the incident after he is revealed to be the Demon King's son. 5 years later, Li Chenlan has taken over the position of the Wanlu sect leader, and Zhao Yao decides to exact revenge. She, who is now a spirit, possesses the body of Qin Ziyan, a female disciple of the immortal sect, and with the help of the newly gained body, she becomes a direct disciple of Mu Qing, aka Li Chenlan, with the aim of killing him. But things don't go as she planned when she slowly starts to fall in love with him instead. Meanwhile, Jiang Wu, an ambitious youth, wants to kill Li Chenlan and become the sect leader. He is interested in Ziyan. What will happen when their lives are intervened? Will Zhao Yao be able to regain her body back and become the sect leader again? What is the fate of Qin Ziyan, whose body Zhao Yao possessed? The story of love and hate begins. That is the synopsis for it. It's a pretty good synopsis. Now, let me tell you why I love this drama. It has to be Bai Lu and Shu Kai. These two in this drama are fire. Their chemistry is so damn good. So damn good. I absolutely love these two together. But to this day, this is probably still one of my very favourite Bai Lu characters. I feel like she starts off like pretty, she lives with her grandpa up in the mountains, and, shenanigans happen, things happen, and she then becomes, builds this kind of like evil sect from the ground up. Then she gets betrayed, dies, comes back as a spirit. Like, her story is really, really interesting. Now, I will give a heads up. The ending for this drama, it's okay, but like, it leaves a little bit to be desired for, let's put it that way. So I will caveat with that. Even saying that, I would still recommend this drama because I just loved loved Bai Lu and Shu Kai together. Also, can we just take a minute? Because in this drama, right, if you just Google, posters for this drama, so they have put in Shu Kai in this like a very long, mane of glory. And that is a very much a term from dramas with a side of kimchi. The fangirls over there, they use that all the time and it's kind of stuck with me. But they put him in this stunning wig. And at first you look at it and it looks black. But no. It has like these blue highlights running through this blooming wig. And it just looks so damn good on him. So, yeah. I very much appreciated it. And there's like, so it's not your typical Xianxia colors in terms, because the main characters are kind of like from what you'd call an evil sect. They're not really, but there's like these very dark, colors. So Bai Lu is often dressed in these reds and blacks and like very dramatic eyeliner. And she's got her hair pulled up in this very high ponytail a lot of the time. And I just really, really enjoyed that styling. It was different from what, I've been used to watching. And then Shu Kai is also often dressed in these very, black and blue, dark blue clothes. So I loved the aesthetic of this drama. It was really, really good. And you can definitely see kind of like the, it being done by the same author as Love Between Fairy and Devil, because I feel like Bai Lu's character could almost have like some traits that we see in, Demon Lord from Love Between Fairy and Devil. Not Demon Lord, Moon Lord. She becomes very hard to the world and very unfeeling to the world in a sense, just because of the cards that she's been dealt and the position she's kind of been put in. So that was really cool to see that like she was the hard one and the male lead was kind of like the softer one, even though everybody assumed that the male lead was like the harsher one. So yeah, I really liked this one. Again, caveat, the ending is a little bit atrocious, but I still loved the ride as a whole. So I still, very much love this drama for that reason. Now, the next one, both of the first ones that I talked about and, Love Between Fairy and Devil and all of those dramas, they tend to be very well-known dramas. The next one, I feel like flew under the radar a little bit. I remember I already was part of the Discord when I was, when this drama came out, because this is a 2021 drama. And I have a friend over there. Her name's Marta. So hi, Marta. And basically, Marta and I watched this whole thing together and absolutely loved it. So one of the things that I absolutely remember about this drama is the fact that the both of us were watching it together and kind of like chatting about it and really excited about it. So I fondly remember this drama of having, that kind of experience of watching it with her. So yeah, and that is the drama No Boundary, and it's a 2021 drama. Now, this is broken up into part 1 and part 2 because I believe this came into effect after the whole, dramas can only be 40 episodes thing. It might have not, but either way, they split it, and it's split into part 1 is 32 episodes and part 2 is 20 episodes. So it's a 52 episode drama in reality, and it's available on iQIYI. Now, this was directed again by Steve Chang, so the same director as The Legends. The screenwriter is Zhu Yu. It is adapted from the novel No Boundary by Wei Yu. You will see that actually I think all of them, I don't think I've come across one, but if you have, please let me know. But to my knowledge and to the ones that I've kind of like watched, most Xianxia dramas are based on novels, which kind of like makes them work better, I think, because they already have that world building all included in the story, if that makes sense. So this is adapted from the novel, and the cast is Zhang Yishang as Duan Muzu, Darren Chen as Zhang Yan, and Wang Yifei as Hong Luan, Gu Zichang as Wan Gu Wei Yu. Now, the one thing that I will say, I remember this one very, very fondly because I watched it, with Marta, the both of us kind of like watching along, kind of like chatting to each other as we were watching the episodes. Her and I are on the same, we don't live in the same country, but we're on the same time zone, so it works really nicely. So yeah, this one's very fond of, to me because of that experience of watching it with a friend. But I still really, really enjoyed the drama. And the MDL description for it reads, follow an upstanding goddess and a constable with a cold exterior who join forces to solve crimes and find love along the way. During the Song dynasty, Bao Long Tu, who governed Kaifeng, has become known as the new Bao Qing Tian. Duan Muzi descends to the mortal realm and establishes her own sect with the intent to vanquish demonic forces who seek to harm humans. Imperial Guard Zan Yan receives order to help Duan Musu beginning their journey against ghosts in the pugilistic world. Now, the reason why I liked this drama, it is because it's a lot different to any Xianxias that I kind of watched. Because yes, it's still a love story, but actually you don't actually go up to the heavenly realm very much. There's probably a couple of episodes up there, but most of it is set in the mortal realm. And the male lead is very much a mortal. So that already there kind of like makes it slightly different to at least what I'm used to watching. But basically our female lead is a goddess. She kind of comes down to establish her own sect and kind of like, demonic spirits are kind of running wild. So she's coming down to basically like clear that out and kind of like help the mortal realm. And the male lead is like a constable and he gets assigned to help her. So I kind of like really enjoy the fact that they work together to solve cases. That is what the story is and how it all starts. And obviously there's a whole, there's a whole backstory behind it, of, grand scheme of things kind of story behind the plot. But I just really enjoyed it. I really loved the main couple. And actually, right up until the very last episodes, I did not know which way they were going to swing in terms of, is it going to be a good ending? Is it going to be a bad ending? And I really like that. I also feel like because they were dealing with lots of different cases, it kind of kept the drama interesting because they were going in, solving a case, and then moving along. And like what was happening was they were solving these little cases, which was kind of like putting pieces together to like the bigger picture of the drama in general. So yeah, that I really, really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. I hadn't really watched either of the male lead or the female lead before and kind of like fell in love with them and went on to watch a bunch more dramas from the male lead. I haven't watched quite as much from the female lead, but I've kind of like kept an eye on them. So yeah, that is the drama No Boundary, which is probably like the least well known within the dramas that I'm mentioning today. I feel like at the time it was, when it came out, it wasn't like as well known and not a lot of people were watching it, or at least maybe I wasn't, in the right circles yet at that time, because this was 2021. So this was, previous to the podcast and all of that. I still did not have any clue that a year later I would be doing a podcast. So yeah, maybe at that point I still, wasn't quite where, I knew about, where to find people watching certain dramas. So yeah, that is No Boundary. And last up, this is the very last drama on my list, and that is the 2020 drama Love and Redemption. It is directed by Yin Chao and Mai Guanzi. The screenwriter is Liu Fang. The cast is Chang Yi as Yu Sifang, Yuan Bing Yan as Zhu Xuanji, and it is adapted from the novel The Glass Maiden by Shi Si Lang. It is 59 episodes of about 45 minutes each. It's available on WeTV, Netflix, Yoku, Prime Video, and Viki. This one is probably like the most widely available drama of the ones that I mentioned. It is, pretty much everywhere and anywhere, so to speak. So, and this one was really, really big when it came out. Like, a lot of people were watching it, and I think it kind of like threw both of the male lead and female lead into like the spotlight. And Changyi is got a really loyal fandom, I think. Now, I really, really liked this drama, but I will caveat with saying I feel like this is one of those that I wish had a few episodes shaven off. I feel like the middle part of the drama kind of like hits this lull a little bit, and that kind of impacted the way that, I saw the drama. But I just absolutely loved the female lead's story, and oh my god, the epic romance in this. I can't go into it because if I do, I'll spoil, but it is... Guys, it is definitely, it's like, let's just say it's love across a good few lifetimes, and it is stunningly well done. So the MDL description reads as: 1,000 years since the battle between the demons and heavens took place, the souls of the Star of Mosha and the God of War are sent to the mortal realm to serve penance. In the mortal realm, Shu Xuanji, daughter of the Xiaoyang sect leader, is deprived of her 6 senses. At a tournament, she meets Yu Sifang, a skilled disciple of the Lizi Palace, who was born on the same day as her. And the two develop a friendship, promising to meet again. Sifang returns to his sect, where he is punished for breaking the rules and forced to wear a mask that could potentially harm his life, while Xuanji leaves her home to train in martial arts. 4 years later, their destinies intertwine anew. While traveling together, recovered memories from their past lives surface, revealing secrets and conspiracies involving themselves and the 3 realms: demon, heavenly, and mortal. These revelations have a profound impact on their relationship, creating an imbalance in all 3 realms. Now, this is very much at its core a love story. Like, it is the love story, starts it, ends it, and, is the middle. It is the focus of the drama, but it is so well done. It's so well done. And that's why I still love this drama. It is because I absolutely adored the love story that, goes hand in hand with it. Again, I could have done with that, middle lull, but I still really, really enjoyed the drama as a whole. And also, it has one of the best OSTs that I heard. Like, I love the OST for this drama. And that actually leads quite nicely into, like, the next... little finishing up section for this episode, which is Let's Talk OSTs. Now, I feel like, for me, Xianxia OSTs are some of the best OSTs out there. They're the ones that I will happily listen to on repeat, and they tend to have they'll use various, songs throughout the whole drama, but they'll have one OST song which they will use in very poignant scenes or very important scenes. And I swear to God, anytime that OST song will play, I am right there watching those scenes again in this, with the feelings in the moment again. So I just absolutely, love OSTs. And actually, for this episode, I kind of put a little YouTube playlist together of all my favorite OSTs from the dramas that I mentioned in this episode. Again, that will be linked in the episode notes for this episode. God, how many times can I say episode today? I feel like I've been pretty good today. I've kept myself quite on track today, which feels a little bit strange. But anyhow, so yeah, I have made sure that like the videos that play with the OSTs are just the lyrics, so you guys won't be spoiled or anything. You can go and check it out and listen to the songs without, having any spoilers if you haven't watched it. The reason why I did it on YouTube is that I feel like it's probably the most accessible platform, so you don't necessarily have to, I know some people listen on Spotify, some people listen on Apple Podcasts, some people listen here or there, whichever. I feel like YouTube is a pretty accessible platform, so if you do want to check those out, because I feel like Xianxia OSTs are just epic. They go with the epicness of the genre in general. And there's just these beautiful arrangements of like almost like classical mixed with like rock sometimes. And it just works so blooming well. And the voices, oh, they are stunning. Honestly, go listen to these songs. You definitely won't regret it. I don't think you'll enjoy them. So, yeah, that is it. That is my episode on Xianxia. I've tried, there's so much more I could talk about and so much more I could go into, but I feel like that would turn into a very, very, very long episode. And I feel like, I hopefully did enough justice and you guys have learnt a little bit and you've got a better grasp of the genre. Again, please go and, if you want to dive even deeper, which I definitely recommend you do, go and read everything that I've linked up in the episode notes where I've gotten all my, excerpts from. So all of that is linked. Again, that document will be linked in today's episode description. So you guys can just go through there and that will take you to the PDF for the episode notes. If not, it's always available on the blog as well, so that's there as well. That's it. Again, there are other Xianxias that I've watched, but these are the full-length Xianxias. What I mean by that is that, they're the long Xianxia dramas. I've watched, very, very short, 5-minute ones or 10-minute ones, which didn't quite make it into this episode. There was another drama that I was toying with putting in here, and that is the 2022 Immortal Samsara, which stars Chang Yi from Love and Redemption, and it stars Yang Zi from Ashes of Love. But I just couldn't, I loved that drama, but again, there was a lot of lull in that drama. We just kept going round in a couple of circles. So I feel like the storytelling for that one let it down a little bit. But I did really enjoy it, mainly for the female lead and the male lead. And I was just about to say I haven't mentioned it, but now I have. So there we go. That is it. That's everything for this episode. How did you guys find this episode? Please let me know, because I always love hearing from you guys, or, reading from you guys, whichever it may be. If you want to, send me a voice note. Go ahead. I don't mind it. But, hearing, reading, whichever it may be, is this a genre you like? And if so, I'm going to make today's episode. So if you listen on Spotify, a question will pop up, and today's question will be, if you have watched this genre, what is your favourite Xianxia drama? I'll be really interested to see what you guys what answers come from you guys. I feel like a lot will be love between Fairy and Devil, because I feel like that's just, a very popular one at the moment. I know there's one that's huge, and that is 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms, or Eternal Love, not to be confused with The Eternal Love, which is a whole other drama. But I haven't actually watched that. Actually, I did. I watched a couple of episodes, and it wasn't for me. Maybe I'll need to go back one time, because there is another 2 dramas within that world that I actually do want to check out, and I think one of them is called Love and War, and that one, I feel like a lot of people say that's the better one out of all the 3 of them, but 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms is a huge drama, huge Xianxia. Lots and lots of people absolutely love that one. But the reason it doesn't get mentioned is just because it wasn't for me, and that's okay too. Everybody's got their own personal taste. So, yeah, like I said, everything will be linked in the episode description. So you'll have all my socials, the Patreon link, the blog link, and the PDF for the notes, which will have all the links for the references that I used in this episode. And that is it, guys. With that, I'll wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Come and chat to me and let me know what you've thought, and I'll see you next time. Bye! This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and you can come and chat to me on Instagram, Tea and Soju Pod, all one word, and on Twitter, tea_soju_pod. You can also email me at teandsojupodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support this podcast, please consider joining Patreon for extra content. Lastly, if you enjoy this podcast, please help by rating and reviewing wherever you listen to help others find this drama corner. I'll leave everything linked in the description notes. See you next time for more Asian drama chatter.